On the Track is a monthly webTV show about cryptozoology, natural history, green issues and whatever else the team feel like making up as they go along. Enjoy!
Quick, look, there's a shark outside the window.
If we're lucky, we might be able to spot the very rare and endangered North Devon garden shark. I never thought I'd be able to see one. To open this gate very quietly.
Oh, for goodness sake, it's that blasted rhinoceros again.
Once a month we do this show about life at the Centre for Fortean Zoology. They feature Charlotte Phillipson, Karina Downs, Mother, Wally the comedy rhinoceros, and, of course, me. My name's John Downs, and welcome to another episode of On the Track. And this month we feature stories about big cats, the Loch Ness Monster, a catfish called Clarence, the climate emergency, and Carl takes the kids on an animal hunt. And yes, if you want to become more involved, you can support us on Patreon, you can visit our Facebook page, or you can follow me on Twitter. All these links are in the description below. Enjoy. As you probably know, Carl Marshall runs the CFZ Big Cat Study Group, and as he's here at the moment, I thought it would be an interesting idea to just take a couple of the stories that he's investigated over the past few months, just take them almost at random from the stories which he and Olivia McCarthy put up on the CFZ Big Cat blog. So, Carl, just totally at random, dropping you in it, let's have a look at this thing that happened back in April in a place with the wonderful name of Harrowbarrow. Yeah. Come on, let's face it, a village called Harrowbarrow sounds something like a location out of Doctor Who, doesn't it? It sounds like a place that's going to be elves and aliens and something or other. What do you think of that? Tell me the story.
Well, it was a guy called James who had his pet dog attacked in the garden. I think the dog's name was Marley or something like that. It was pretty much inconclusive, really. There was no hard evidence to imply it was a big cat. However, domestic cats had been taken in the area, so they were going missing quite regularly. And his one dog was attacked, and his smaller dog became very afraid to go into the garden.
I'm not surprised. I mean, James said Marley was walking the far end of the grounds at night, and I was about 20 feet from him, when he was suddenly taken down to the floor as if his legs had given way. Marley was covered in blood and had a deep injury on his front leg and another between his toes on the front paw. On his left shoulder was a big black mark as if a muddy claw had scraped down his side. But did he actually see it?
No, he didn't.
Apparently he did see something a couple of days later, didn't he?
Well, I don't know if he saw clearly a cat, but he said he saw some sort of animal. But it was again very much inconclusive.
Well, the RSPCA commented that the mystery predator had likely caught some prey and was eating it in James's garden, which is why the animal attacked Marley. Well, that makes sense.
It is possible.
Yeah, but is there any proof that anything to actually suggest that this wasn't a fox or a badger?
I suppose the deep gash to the shoulder, if that had been done by a cat's claw, then that might be considered to be positive evidence. But that's about it, really.
A local resident, a guy called Shane Pridham, believes that his black domestic cat was also taken by the mysterious predator. Well, there are all sorts of things that can happen to both dogs and cats. The fact that somebody's cat disappears could be something as simple as just being hit by a car. The fact that this dog was attacked in this guy's garden does seem indicative that there was a predator there.
And foxes are known to be quite nervous of cats.
I don't think there's any, with that one, there's no real evidence that it was anything massively exciting, that it could have just been a fox or a badger.
Possibly, yeah. Considering there was no hard evidence of any sort, there was no paw marks, no hair, nothing like that.
Well, let's go back to another one that you wrote about recently, although it actually happened only a couple of years ago. And the interesting thing about this is that it is utilising the most modern consumer technology.
Okay, this was recorded back in 2016 in a quarry in the Welsh Mountains. It was widely accepted at the time to have been a big cat, a big black cat of the leopard variety. It's clearly not. You can see quite clearly that it's wearing a collar if you pause it at just the right time and blow up the image so you can see it clearer. And also you can see by the tail that it's a dog. It's absolutely a dog, most likely a black Labrador. It was reported that there's a lady nearby walking her dog, a white dog on a lead. However, I would say that there's a good chance that that lady owned two dogs, a white dog and a black dog, and this is the black dog, and it just happens to not be on a lead. But you can see quite clearly that it's wearing a collar.
Wanted mystery black cat answers to the name of Fido. Hey, yeah, wait a minute, Mr. Postman.
Dear Mr. Downs, each episode you and Charlotte laugh at the latest Loch Ness Monster videos, and so far, at least, they deserve it. But do you actually believe in a monster in Loch Ness? Yours sincerely, Jane Rochester.
Well, it depends what you mean. Do I believe that there's an ancient prehistoric reptile from the ages of the dinosaurs living in a big Scottish lake? No, of course I don't. That's just purely ridiculous. But do I believe that some, at least, of the Loch Ness Monster reports are actually caused by a very real animal? Yes, I think that's certainly a possibility, and I've written quite widely upon my theory that the monsters which are reported from lakes all around the Northern Hemisphere may be European eels, which for various reasons have grown far larger than they are supposed to. Plesiosaur? No. Monster? Possibly. But if you want me to go into more detail about my theory, of course I'll do so. Let me know in the comments.
Hi John, in recent episodes you have made On the Track more political. I just wondered, do all the members of the team share the same ideals? Yours, JUon Boardman.
That's a very good question, Gillian, although it's not a very easy one to answer. For new viewers, let me reassure you that the only politics that I rant on about in this show are green ones. I stay clear of party politics like the plague, at least in public. But although everybody involved with the CFZ believes that the Earth is precious and that the environments which remain are precious and should be conserved, Different people within the On the Track team have different ideas about how this should be achieved. Politically, I don't agree with all the people here, and politically they don't agree with me. I am basically an anarchist from the Dial House tradition, and there are people involved with the show who are from the left wing and the right wing of British politics. But we respect even if we don't agree with each other's opinions, and that's the way it should be in a civilised society. Graham and I particularly have wildly differing viewpoints, but he's one of my closest friends. He's been my deputy here at the CFZ for well over 20 years, and I hope that he will continue to do so. And he has the democratic right to cast his vote for whomever he chooses. As do I, as do all of you. And we all reserve the right to laugh at each other, both on and off camera, because humour is the best way of approaching any of the difficulties that our society finds itself in at the moment. Well, I'm sure you'll remember from the last episode how Graham and Carl and Charlotte have been trying to optimise the CFZ grounds to make it into a wildlife garden rather than a person garden. Well, as you know, we sunk an old bath that we used to keep turtles in into the ground to make a new CFZ pond. But the best laid plans of animals and men do sometimes go pear-shaped. And sadly, Graham had quite a few problems with this old plastic bath, and we had to expend quite a lot of silicone sealant to fix all the holes. But finally we've done so, and here is Charlotte wearing my late father's Panama hat and filling up the pond, hopefully for good.
We had a fence along here, and it suffered a lot of storm damage. In fact, several bits of storm damage, so I had to take it down. And this is the new bit of boundary fence, mesh, on the metal posts. And that should hopefully keep the dog within the grounds.
Earlier this month, Carl Marshall and his father John arranged a day out for 4 younger members of the Marshall family: Jake, aged 10, Becky, 9, Bethany, 7, and Scarlett, aged 5.
Was it a big bird, Beth?
Middle.
It was a middle-sized bird?
Yeah.
Well done. Yep, if you saw a butterfly. What bird did you see, Jake?
I think it was a jackdaw.
A jackdaw. Where did you see the jackdaw, Jake?
On top of that roof over there. I think it's still there.
Scarlett? What'd you find? Jackdaw feather. You got a jackdaw feather?
The aim was to simply encourage their interest in animals and to show how animals can be found everywhere if we can be bothered to look for them. They all were just enjoying the sunshine, seeing what creatures we share our world with.
These bees, I think they're all workers, because the male bees always have to collect the eggs for the queen bee that's called drones.
Well done.
I got a fact.
Yep.
Bees have stings on their back, so I think it's like a defence for them.
It is, that's right. They don't want to get hurt, do they? Yeah.
Oh.
Right, so how many bees have we got on here? It's quite a lot, isn't there?
Is there any different kind?
Yeah, this one's a bumblebee. And you have honeybees.
Is that the same thing?
No, they have different kinds of bees.
Oh, bumblebee and honeybee.
Yeah, these are all pretty...
What kind is that?
Bumblebee. It's a very little one, though. Some of them are massive. I've seen bumblebees like this. I found a bumblebee once. He got his own fleas. The fleas on the bumblebee.
No way.
They're good.
Righto.
Can you see them over there, Scarlett? They're Canada geese. They come all the way from Canada. They have to fly here. Jake, do you think someone lives in this hole?
Something where?
Over here?
Yeah.
I would say that, not sure if it's in there at the moment,
Wait,
but there's definitely something does live in there.
something could be right in there.
I think it could be, couldn't it? I bet you there are birds living in here somewhere.
I've got an idea.
Go on, tell me something interesting about birds, Jake.
Well, birds used to be dinosaurs, and then now they're the only existing dinosaurs on our planet.
That's right, well done. Yeah, so it means that dinosaurs aren't actually extinct, are they? They're still here, they're just birds.
I've got 25, I need to catch up with Bethany.
You're doing well.
I've got 19. I got 19. Finally, now I get
Go on then, Jake, have a look. What is there?
There's a little ant.
Oh, I've got ants.
I can't see anything else apart from ants.
Whoa, look at all those.
What's that? What's that?
They're ants.
White ants?
Yeah, they'll bite me. Look at all them.
What are they?
They're ants. We've disturbed an ant's
I
nest.
want to go. One's burning.
They found
Common blue damselfly, garden snail, blackbird, jackdaw, rough woodlouse, red admiral, buzzard, cellar spider, bumblebee, honeybee, mosquito, perch, seven-spotted ladybird, small unknown spider, false darkling beetle, mute swan, fruit flies, seagull, Canada geese, stock dove, common wasp, mallard, magpie, black-headed worm, common crow, day-old garden spider, green woodpecker, wagtail, chub fry, red hawker dragonfly, grey heron, white-legged snake millipede.
Then the kids sent a list of all the animals they found to Uncle John, who was the judge, and chose the winning animal, which was... drum roll please!
The green woodpecker, which was seen by Scarlett. I've always loved these birds and haven't seen one down here for years, so well done that lass. The Marshall family are very much looking forward to visiting the Natural History Museum soon, and you'll be able to watch that here on the Track.
About the fourth slow worm of the season, courtesy Dotty.
Well, like I said last episode, we have 3 species of amphibians breed here in the CFZ grounds, but only 1 species of reptile. This, the slow worm, Britain's only legless lizard. And I have thought they were remarkably attractive little lizards for many, many years now, but unfortunately Dotty, the most normal and the youngest of our cats, also finds them irresistibly fascinating. Now, what is Graham doing, you might ask? Well, he's actually bringing in a new addition to the household. It's a walking Clarence catfish, which I've named Clarence in Wonderland. And for those of you who don't know, that's the title of a song by the late and very lamented Kevin Ayers, which went something like this. Sitting on a beach like Clarence in Wonderland, I had a dream and I know that you understand, except he sang it much better than me. This particular Clarence in Wonderland came as a gift from our old friend Helen Taylor. She was keeping it in a large tank with an even larger South American armoured catfish, but there were catfish altercations between the two, dare I say, a catfight? And so Clarence came to us, which is really rather good, because I've always rather wanted to have a walking catfish in my collection.
We've made a bid for freedom now. We jumped the right way, haven't we?
Of course it doesn't actually have legs, but it is named for its ability to walk and wiggle across dry land in order to find food or suitable environments. It has the ability to use its pectoral fins to keep it upright as it makes its wiggling motions with snake-like movements. This fish normally lives in slow-moving and often stagnant waters, in ponds, swamps, streams and rivers, flooded rice paddies or temporary pools which may dry up. When this happens, its walking skill allows the fish to move to other sources of water. Considerable taxonomic confusion surrounds this species, and it has frequently been confused with other close relatives. Within Asia, these species have been introduced widely. It's also been introduced outside its native range, where it's considered an invasive species. In the United States, it is established in Florida and reported in California, Connecticut, Georgia, Massachusetts and Nevada, and regarded as a serious invasive species as they can destroy fish farms. The walking catfish was apparently imported to Florida, reportedly from Thailand, in the early 1960s for the aquaculture trade. In 2017, everyone in Britain was very surprised to find the Clarence were even recovered from the River Tonge near Bolton in Lancashire, which, for non-Brits, is up in the north of England.
So Karina, what do you think the Loch Ness Monster is?
Well, I've heard that some people think it's a giant sturgeon.
A giant sturgeon in a Scottish lake? Surely not.
Well, you know what, Charlotte, this is probably my favourite part of the show. It's time when you and I look at videos that have been sent in, the videos and pictures that have been sent in, usually of lake monsters, over the last month. And it was something I really missed when you were away doing your GCSEs. It's lovely to have you back. Still, the best time you ever did this was when you claimed something looked like a giant underwater chicken, which I think you probably made a great contribution to cryptozoology. But we've got something very interesting here. This is from Loch Ness, and there are 3 different pictures that have been taken which appear to be of the same object. Here's the first one. Here is the second one, which does appear to be leaving a wake. And here's the third one, which has been described as having a neck shape, pointing out and pointing into the air with the body in the water.
Or that tiny black dot.
Yes, that tiny black dot. What do you think it is?
It could be something like a log floating on top of the water.
Would you believe people have been claiming it was a Loch Ness Monster? Do you think it's a prehistoric reptile?
No, I do not.
What do you think it is?
Something floating on top of the water. I doubt it's...
Well, the guy who does one of the most impressive Loch Ness Monster blogs has found out what it is. You were right first time. It's not a log that's floating, it's just a log that's there. It's a large bit of tree that is just there. But it is quite interesting that 3 different people have photographed it, thinking, here's another one, 4 different people have photographed it, thinking it is the Loch Ness Monster. But something else quite interesting on the same guy's blog turned up in my Twitter feed last night. Now, apparently there was an Australian family on holiday in Scotland over Christmas and the New Year, and they saw this. I'm not sure what to think, but
It looks like, you know when you're feeding fish and they all come up to the surface?
It's got to be it.
yes,
It kind of looks like that.
I don't know.
except right with this time you can actually see a scale reference. You can see how far away it is, and it's right in the lake. So nobody physically is feeding fish.
No.
If it is a fish,
No, that is it.
Or several fish.
Well, I don't know, but God, what else would it be? We are on Loch Ness.
I mean, this guy
And
sounds
there's
so
something moving in the
excited,
water.
doesn't he?
I reckon it is the monster. What do you reckon? Bloody hell.
So you
Oh, it's
reckon,
got to be real.
it looks like a fish coming up to the top of the water?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what species of fish can be found in Loch Ness.
Probably ones that you can find pretty easily.
Well, yes and no, because Loch Ness, have you ever been to Loch Ness?
No,
I've been a few times, and the water is very, very peaty and very, very thick, and there's actually a very low amount of wildlife in there. It's one of the reasons why the people who say there's a viable population of prehistoric surviving monsters, prehistoric surviving reptiles, are completely wrong, because there just isn't a biomass of fish in the lake in order to support a population of creatures that size. Let's look at those jolly nice people in Wikipedia. You have European eels, which we've talked about before as a possible explanation for the Loch Ness Monster. You have the pike, Esox lucius, which actually is a very, very big fish. You know what they look like?
What, pikes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're fantastic fish. You have the European you try and say that if you've had a few drinks, and I'm stone cold sober.
European sea sturgeon.
The European sea sturgeon, Acapensa sturio. Now, it is known from the nearest part of the sea to Loch Ness, which is connected to it from the Bewley and Moray Firth, which is connected to Loch Ness by the River Ness. And so it's possible that sturgeon, which are the biggest fish to be found in British freshwater, may be found in Loch Ness. Sticklebacks, well, you know what they look like. Tiny things, absolutely fantastic. And they're probably going to be what we end up putting in the pond, the new pond. Brook lampreys, fantastic creatures that I've done quite a lot of work on over the years. Fantastic little creatures. Minnows, which are also tiny. Ferox trout, which are a type of trout which are, by the name implies, very, very ferocious. And salmon, which are very big fish, and Arctic char, which are only known from the subarctic and northern parts of Europe. They're a very primitive member of the trout family, and they're fairly small. But we do have here three types of fish: the pike, the sturgeon, and the salmon, which can grow to quite large sizes. I agree with you that it looks like there's something in the water, and the most obvious thing would be a fish of some sort, one of the larger species that are found there. But most of the people who've looked at this video, and people who've studied Loch Ness more than I do, say that it's actually either a boat wake or just a strange wave.
There was never a boat in the film, though.
No. Well, it's quite interesting that in the history of Loch Ness there's a very famous saying. One of the old bits of folklore about Loch Ness that's been used by a lot of people to suggest that there is actually a large unknown creature living there is the story that Loch Ness was a place that had waves without wind. Well, possibly here, because I can't see a boat either, and all the bits when they pull out you get a much wider view of it. There isn't a boat in ages. But if Loch Ness can have waves without wind, possibly it can have wakes without boats. But a while back, last year, a team from a New Zealand scientific establishment went to Loch Ness to take water samples to check for the DNA of all the creatures that actually live in the lake. And they've come out with something really rather interesting. They've said that they have been able to disprove most of the theories about the Loch Ness Monster, but that one of them might be true.
And which one is that?
Don't know yet, they haven't held the press conference.
Terrific.
It's good that the UK and Ireland have declared a climate emergency.
Yes, as long as they do something about it though.
They declared an emergency to keep the rebels quiet for a day. Come what may. Despite the manifesto, they were sure that they would riot. Would they pay? That's what you'd say. If your house was on fire, you would scream it and you'd shout it. But the men in power over us won't do a thing about it. On both sides of the ocean, politicians say they doubt it. While all around the world, people are dying 'cause they're droughting it. Civil disobedience is a reasonable option, so they say. Come what may. With the political classes riddled with moral corruption, we're okay. So go and play. Capitalism's dying, man, something needs to replace it. The inevitable option so bad none of us can face it. We either take a stand and stand together to embrace it, or pretend that everything's just fine and let the media erase it.
The UK government has declared a climate and environment emergency. See this big green alarm here? The motion was tabled by the Labour Party and went through yesterday. Jeremy Corbyn was addressing some of these protesters and said they've forced the UK to declare this climate emergency. Real politics comes from the ground up, and that's what today has shown. Now we'll give you a little bit of an insight into what that emergency might actually mean, but it's all come from the loud voice of lots of protesters. First and foremost, Extinction Rebellion. These are the people who've been gluing themselves to monuments, been refusing to move. They locked down the centre of London, Oxford Circus. They've staged die-ins at museums, stand-ins on bridges, and they've celebrated this, breaking, they've passed this emergency. This has got to be the start. We've got to tell the truth.
Leaders must do something to put out these global fires, so we say. Come what may. But the men in power over us are charlatans and liars, they're okay. So go away. There's no point in your posturing if you don't follow through with a mandate for real action. It's the least that you can do. If you continue to do nothing, then rebellion's overdue. The kids have already started, but now we must join them too. Governments operate with institutional inertia, so they say. Come what may. And covertly introduced policies they know will hurt ya tomorrow, if not today. Laissez-faire capitalism's surely had its day. If there's hope of survival, there must be another way. To change our way of thinking is easy for me to say, but it's what needs to be done if these changes are to stay.
That's enough of this communist sedition. It's time to go over to Karina for her regular monthly look at the Watcher of the Skies.
I've always felt a curious affinity with this species of bird, probably because for 30 years I was a secretary, and this is a secretary bird. A highly specialised ground-dwelling bird of prey from an older family than the other old world raptors. It is native to sub-Saharan Africa and is sadly non-migratory, so will never be a natural visitor to these shores. But I think you'd be surprised quite how many completely unexpected avian visitors Britain does have, and that's what this segment of On the Track is all about. Bernard Heuvelmans himself said that cryptozoology wasn't the study of monsters, but the study of unexpected animals, and in the UK what could be more unexpected than vultures, spoonbills and albatrosses? Yes, even the kings of the Southern Ocean have been seen in British waters. 2 species of albatross have been recorded in the UK in recent years. Not all of our feathered visitors are quite so spectacular, but nearly every day there is something exciting to greet the watcher of the skies.
Hello again. A pair of oyster catchers have spent more than a month nesting at a Herefordshire sand and gravel quarry. The wading birds, which are protected species in the UK, were first seen in early June and have remained at the quarry ever since. Since the birds were first spotted by quarry workers, a 30-metre exclusion zone was put in place to prevent the birds from being disturbed from the field they are nesting on. Oyster catchers are a large, stocky black and white wading bird with a long orange-red bill and reddish-pink legs. In flight, they show a wide white wing stripe, a black tail and a white rump that extends as a V between the wings. Pairs of oyster catchers scrape out a simple nest on the top of a beach or on the bank of a river or lake and line it with tiny shells or pebbles. During April or May, the female lays around 3 eggs and both parents help to keep them warm until they hatch. There are believed to be only 110,000 pairs of breeding birds in the UK and an estimated 340,000 birds that spend their winters in the UK. A rare visitor arrived in Iona at the end of June, when a great spotted cuckoo became the only second ever in Scotland, with the first being on Orkney back in 1959. Argyll bird recorder Jim Dixon said, "Great spotted cuckoos are a scarce summer visitor to southern Europe, migrating from Africa, with several previous records to the south of England and Ireland. However, it's extremely rare this far north." He added that spring in Argyll has already been excellent for rare bird sightings, with 3 new species, the other 2 being a white-crowned sparrow from North America and a black-winged stilt from southern Europe. The Wildfowl and Wetlands Trust in Slimbridge, Gloucestershire, became the place to spot a bird not seen in the county since 1946, at the end of last month, when a little bustard was spotted. Finished? With your puerile sense of humour?
Well, last time I went to a Wetlands Trust place, there were lots of little bastards all running around making a lot of noise.
Classed as a mega rare sighting, a couple of thousand bird watchers turned up to catch a glimpse of the bird. Tony Whitehead from the RSPB said, "It's a pretty scarce bird. There have only been 27 visits by the little bustard to the UK since 1950. But this last few days there has also been an influx of painted lady butterflies with the warm weather, as it could be that very hot weather in France and Spain is causing a bit of movement." And France did have very hot weather, didn't they?
Yeah, highest ever.
Yeah. The little bustard is a large bird in the bustard family, and it breeds in southern Europe and in western and central Asia. The southernmost European birds are mainly resident, but other populations migrate further south in winter.
Well, you know what, Karina? There end up being some clever bastards.
It's not funny.
Yes, it is.
That's just dragging it out. A Calandra lark was found on North Uist recently. Is that right?
Uist.
Recently. Only 19 of these birds have been recorded in Britain previously, with only 1 in the Outer Hebrides. Pending acceptance, this will be the 20th record for the UK, the 10th for Scotland and the 2nd for the Outer Hebrides. It is the latest spring record too, and the first to occur in June. The Calandra lark, or European Calandra lark, breeds in warm temperate countries around the Mediterranean and eastwards through Turkey into northern Iran and southern Russia. Oh hello, you're back, darling.
It is replaced further east by its relative, the bimaculated lark. 2 pairs of rare pied flycatchers, which are on the Birds of Conservation Concern Red List, are successfully breeding at Lidford Gorge on Dartmoor and Devon, thanks to work done by rangers at the National Trust. And 1 pair of the birds, who were born in different parts of Devon, have paired up and are now busy raising their young there. The Devon pair of birds were ringed in 2014, and the National Trust has been able to discover that the male was born near Widdicombe on the Moor and the female hails from South Molton. As pied flycatchers migrate thousands of miles during the winter before returning to the UK to mate in the spring, it's not known how or when they paired up. However, the Trust is delighted to see these endangered birds doing well after careful work to attract them to the area has worked. In 2017, National Trust rangers and volunteers created specialised bird boxes to encourage the birds to nest in the gorge, which is rich in mature woodland consisting of a mix of sessile oak, beech, ash and hazel that the pied flycatchers prefer. Following confirmation that they were nesting successfully, rangers worked to apply a technique proven to increase the likelihood of pied flycatchers adopting the boxes. This involved placing a trio of the specialised bird boxes near each other. Often this trio of boxes are occupied by a pair of blue tits in one, a pair of great tits in the other, and pied flycatchers in the third. This technique was introduced to the gorge in 2018 and has helped to encourage 3 pairs of pied flycatchers to make their home there. Males often return to the same area of woodland each year, so it's hoped their chicks, which have now also been ringed, will return to Lidford Gorge next spring after making their journey to Africa over the winter. So, how long did it take ring-necked parakeets to take over London? You may well ask, or you may well not be interested at all. But there are a few urban myths out there. One is that Jimi Hendrix took his birds in a cage for a walk down near Carnaby Street and let them go. Another refers to a time when filming The African Queen at Isleworth or Shepperton Studios, the story changes, in London, because the film required exotic extras, a flock of ring-necked parakeets was brought on set. But whether these birds escaped before, during or after filming is a mystery, as they don't appear in the film. But these escapees may well have started off today's population. A more obvious explanation is that they have been popular pets for hundreds of years, and London's docks was a prime source of arrival for them. The earliest recorded sightings were in Dulwich in 1893 and Brixton in 1894, and a breeding pair were reported in Epping Forest in 1930. It wasn't until the late 20th century that the first large colony was established by the river at Kingston upon Thames, where they became such a local feature that many people still know the birds as Kingston parakeets. For decades they were exclusive to southwest London, then they spread into Richmond and Kew before crossing the Thames and establishing themselves in Kensington Gardens, Hyde Park and Regent's Park. Then they moved into Highgate and Hampstead Heath, west into Holland Park and Notting Hill, and east along the Regent's Canal into Hackney and Walthamstow marshes. And in the space of a few short years they spread to every borough and even beyond the M25. I guess we'll never know the real story. And that's it for this episode, so now it's time to go over to Jonathan for his usual look of new and rediscovered species. So it's goodbye from me and it's goodbye from Lily.
It seems now that in every episode we look at new species of animal that have been discovered in the Western Ghats, also known as Sahedri or Benevolent Mountains, the mountain range running north to south that covers an area of 140,000 square kilometres in a stretch of 1,600 kilometres parallel to the western coast of the Indian Peninsula. And guess what? This month is no exception. Let me introduce you to Hemidactylus varadagiri, a new rupicolous gecko from the Hemidactylus brooki complex, which has been found in the forests and plateaus of Amboli in the Western Ghats. This medium-sized, an average adult, is about 56 centimetres to about 62 centimetres, nocturnal species is superficially similar to other congeners from the H. brooki clade, but can be distinguished from them by a range of characteristics, including 17 or 18 fairly regular longitudinal rows of enlarged conical keeled tubercles at the mid-body. Molecular data based on the mitochondrial ND2 gene supports the distinctiveness of this species and helps ascertain its phylogenetic position within the H. brooki group of the Indian Hemidactylus radiation. Still in the Western Ghats, and this once again highlights why they are so well known as a biodiversity hotspot, here is a new genus and species of vine snake, Proahutella antica, from the Agastathmalami Hills in the southern Western Ghats. This discovery adds to the growing list of ancient lineages endemic to these hills and underscores the biogeographic significance of this isolated massif in the southern Western Ghats. Moving away from this part of India, but staying in southern Asia, it's time to look at the flying squirrels of the tribe Pteromiini, which currently includes 15 genera, of which the genus Biswaniopterus comprises two recognized species, B. biswasi and B. lauensis. These two species were each described from only one specimen that is separated from each other by 1,250 kilometres in southern Asia, where they occur in northeast India and central Laos. In 2017 and 2018, two specimens of this genus were discovered from Mount Gaolingong in southwest China, between the type locality of the two recognized species. This study aimed to evaluate the taxonomic status of these two newly acquired specimens by comparing their morphology with the two described species of the genus. The results of this study showed that the specimens from Yunnan province differed from both the other species in both pelage, colour and craniology, and should be recognised as a distinct species, B. gaolingoniensis. This study contributes majorly to the understanding of the flying squirrels of southern Asia and identifies this new species that appears to be endemic to southwest China. However, a lot more research is going to be required to provide details of its ecology, distribution and conservation status. And finally, back to India. A few episodes ago we told you about the first species of snakehead fish that have been discovered living underground. Now, there is a second one. Ainamakachana mahablali is a new species of troglophilic snakehead which has been described on the basis of a single specimen recovered from a well in Kerala, India, over 200 kilometres south of the type locality for the other known species in the genus. This new species can be distinguished from its congener in possessing fewer dorsal fin rays, fewer total vertebrae, fewer scales in the lateral series, and in the pectoral fin rays being extended beyond the margin of the membrane into filaments. I would like to also point out that whereas every effort has been made to contact the copyright holders of these photographs, we believe that we are justified in reproducing them in this not-for-profit video using the policy of fair use. However, if there is anybody who believes that their intellectual or legal rights have been infringed, please contact us and we will do our best to bring the matter to a mutually acceptable solution.
But first, there's this.
And in next month's episode.
Well, in next month's episode we do have a special surprise for you, which I'm not going to spoil just yet. We also have Carl going to the Natural History Museum and all sorts of exciting things here at the CFZ. So, I look forward to seeing you then.
And then there's this. Thank you for watching this episode of On the Track. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you learned something, and I hope to see you next month. Goodbye!
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's about it for this show. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed putting it together. I really do enjoy doing On the Track, and it becomes a more and more important part of my life with each episode that we do. So I'd like to do a big thank you to everybody who's helped for this time around, and I'd like to tell you you've got to watch next month's episode because we've got something really special for you. All I can say is these months seem to get shorter and shorter, and it won't be long before we're doing yet another episode for you. But until then, be seeing you.